Hui tai kie. Ko te mihi tuatahi ki te atua, nana ihanga i ngā mea katoa. Ko te mihi tuarua ki ngā mate, haere, haere, haere. Kia koutou te hunga ora, ngā manuhiri kua tai mai. Tīnā koutou, tīnā tātou katoa. Ko kaki puka ti maunga, ko waipa te awa no te kuiti ahau, ko te atutu ahau e noho ana. Ko Sport Waitākere ahau I mahi ana, ko Caitlin McCall toku wingoa nō reira, tīnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, everyone. Morena, welcome. My name is Caitlin. I'm in the Healthy Families Waitākere team based at Sport Waitākere. I'm speaking to you from the beautiful Waitākere area of Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, and I'm your host for today. I've also got my colleague Grace Voinovich online helping out as well. Kia ora, Grace. Thank you for taking the time to come and listen to this kōrero this morning. We're talking about making systemic change to create more health promoting environments, and we're really lucky to be joined by our two awesome colleagues in Healthy Families South Auckland. They're based in the Southern Initiative team at Auckland Council. First up, we will hear from Winnie Hauraki. She is the Healthy Families Senior Council Lead, and she'll be sharing the Healthy Environments Framework and the approach to promote healthy, active, and flourishing communities. We will leave some time at the end of her presentation for her to answer any of your questions. So please, while she's talking, write any questions into the chat on Zoom or on Facebook, and Grace and I will put these questions to her at the end. At 11:30, we will hear from Julio. He'll be talking about the Papatoetoe Food Hub, where community-led enterprises and local government have worked together to completely transform an underutilised piece of land and make it into a hub. That it's providing good food, it's accessible, desirable and affordable for South Aucklanders. We will also have time at the end for Julio to answer any of your questions, and if you have any questions for Winnie, please feel free to ask those while he's talking too, and we'll put them to the both of them at the end. So let's kick off. Winnie, please make sure you're on unmute. Welcome, Winnie.
Awesome. Sure, Caitlin. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, girl. That's awesome. And congratulations to you and your team for putting this webinar together. It's been fantastic.
Yeah,
so here we go with me trying to share my screen. And kicking off. How's that, Caitlin? Are we good? Awesome. The morena koutou, ko Winnie Hauraki taku wingoa, no hokianga hau, engare noho ana hau e manurewa, and I am with Auckland Council's Southern Initiative team as the lead systems innovator for the Healthy Families South Auckland. I will be presenting the Healthy Environment Initiative. And as you all know, built environments have a significant impact on communities' health and well-being. Because all councils play a vital role in providing spaces that facilitate health and well-being, we developed the Healthy Environment approach to support Auckland Council to become a health promoting organisation. So today, I hope to provide you with some useful takeaways, like how we've influenced systems change within a large organisation, change strategies we have developed for our team to shift stakeholder groups from understanding to action, and if there's any visuals or info that you're after the presentation, just let Caitlin know. What are we trying to achieve? So with insights gathered from event goers, event organisers and vendors, the data provided us with a current state. The ideal state we wanted to achieve was to increase the availability and accessibility of good food and drink choices, support smoke-free and get people moving. So from the community insights and co-design workshops, which involved our Healthy Families West whānau, Auckland Regional Public Health Service and Auckland Council's Southern Events team, we generated themes to drive the core principles and created a working prototype to demonstrate what a healthy environment approach looks like at an event. So once the testing was finished, we were able to seek political influence via our Southern local boards. So in 2018, the South local boards adopted the principles across the South events. To scale it out, the systems connection crossed over into our community grants. So the visual is a roadmap of our processes and outcomes through our relationship with the community grants team. So with working alongside the events team and community grants team, in 2019, the community grants took this work through to the local boards. So in 2019, the local boards adopted the principles into their grants program, where the healthy environment approach was added as measures against applicants requesting event grants. We worked with our community grants and events team through their assessment process. Once our partners had a better understanding, we were able to biodegrade out. So we scaled out and embedded the practice through the online Smarty Grants process. The Smarty Grants process reaches across all 21 local boards, therefore across the Auckland region, and influencing a significant community grants budget across the 21 local boards, and improving environments for a number of event goers in South Auckland and across the region. Just a couple of quotes from our partners, one being the Community Grants Senior Grants Advisor, and another from a community event organiser for MUMA. So during the events and community grants mahi, I continue to develop the systems connections. So the visual here is providing a snapshot of the healthy environment approach theory of change related to leisure and community leases. So the theory of change was a tool that supported my way of working and embedded me to identify the opportunities within the system. So overall landing on 5 settings, which was the events, community grants, leisure, community facilities through leases, and community places. Another tool is the 6 conditions of systems change. Using the 6 conditions as a lens helped to identify, what are the conditions to influence, and what are the strategies for change. So the 3 strategies are providing a process as I stepped into each setting, like leisure and community facilities. And so using the 6 conditions lens, like for example, with mental models, you had to really define what their understanding is of a healthy environment, or what does it look like to them. Or another one would be the resource flow, because it's not just about the money, but it's very much around the people. This visual is an infograph of the process and successes with leisure. Our leisure centres, obvious choice, but you still needed to understand what's the value and the benefit to them. So I could shift mindsets from just understanding to action. So we had to navigate where are the levers to impact that system's change. And as our relationships and connections built, I gained a better understanding of what that current state looked like. And what they wanted to improve was staff efficiency, increase nutrition into their programs, and have a consistent approach to good kai across the leisure network. So again, once the data gathering, the workshops, the testing was finished, we set up a procurement system leveraging off Auckland Council's bid food catering contractor, which immediately had a significant impact where it improved staff efficiency, provided access to good kai, and established a consistent approach across leisure's OSCAR programs. The Good Kai initiative is now scaled across all leisure sites who deliver OSCAR programs. I then introduced the approach to leisure's Cody Kids program. That's now been completed and rolled out across South Auckland, across the South Auckland Cody Kids. And I'm currently working with the North sites to see if we can scale out across the whole leisure network through the Cody Kids program. So I'm currently working with North, but some key achievements there. Capability building of staff, and that was an awesome process to go through to see the staff really building their capability, and also reset of budgets to increase investment, especially towards accessing nutritious kai. And that physical, tangible, you can see there's been an improved food environment for our tamariki, and also reduced pressure for our whānau. So anō, again, a couple of quotes from one of our rec assistants from South OSCAR program, and one of the head teachers from our Cody Kids South program. So this visual is a roadmap of our process and outcomes with community facilities or leases, which also crossed over with community places. So part of the challenge with community facilities and community places is, healthy environment approach is not a policy or a bylaw, so it's not compulsory. So I had to be quite persistent with these settings, and again, understand the value add, navigate the leaders for the systems change, and be able to shift mindsets from not just understanding but into action. Again, using the 6 conditions lens, like the mental models and the power dynamics, it shifted my own mindset to adapting my thinking and language. So what I mean by that is it's not a policy, it's not a bylaw. So no, it's not a policy, but we would work towards a collaborative approach rather than a compliance approach. So shifting power and control to a collaborative approach. So that was a really cool learning for me about how you adapt your own thinking and the language we use. So some key achievements there is, the healthy environment approach requirements have been included into food vendor leases. It enabled me to do some testing with those vendors on site and build community capability for sustainable change. Both settings still require, facilities and community places, both settings still require ongoing support to manage the partnership. And we are currently underway developing our strategy that better supports plans that promote a healthy environment approach. Again, just a couple of quotes. These were from local community when we were doing some of our testing in the community places, community centres. So, surprises and challenges. So adapting quickly and sharing risk has gone a long way with building that shared language and nurturing relationships. You know, it takes time for people to adjust, and people are at different levels in their journey. So delays happen, and you pivot as required. You know, so my approach has been to build my credibility with my partners, with our stakeholders. You know, prove my worth and show real results. And you know, if there's still no action, then it's knowing when to wrap things up and move on. If they're not quite ready, you know, just making that decision of when's the right time to move on, and just keep supporting them through that journey. What did we learn? So as a team, we're building our muscle regarding reflection practice and getting better at how we record what we are learning. So our three strategies, one being the 6 conditions of systems change, you know, as our lens across our work. Our second one with the support, collective vision and ownership to give control. You know, sometimes you do have to hand over that control, and also be able to challenge leadership and change some of those mental models. And the third strategy for us is to demonstrate that change. So knowing what the current state is and versus an ideal state. So it has been a useful tool for us, coming together and thinking about what are the 3 change strategies for us. So some of the impact we've been able to influence. You know, there has been some significant shifts in staff attitudes and beliefs since putting things into practice. You know, our people being the most important of the resource flow. Slowly but surely, you know, we're moving practice and resources, etc., towards a health promoting environment. And to conclude, it's a summary of some of our successes we have achieved. You know, embed into the Auckland Council system, such as the community grants and the leisure procurement. The financial flow has meant, you know, better investment and increasing access to good kai and an efficient procurement system for our leisure whānau. And so, yeah, I hope this presentation has been useful to you, and how you might be able to influence your local systems for sustainable change, and how we've used tools as a team to develop change strategies that have helped support us to shift our stakeholder groups from understanding to action. So, yeah, thank you for your time, and I'll hand it back to Caitlin.
Kia ora, Winnie. Thank you so much for your kōrero. Yeah, and particularly hearing the frameworks and the tools that you and your team use to guide your work, but also working in that area of procurement to create healthier choices. Also, I loved that you talked about knowing the current state rather than, you know, talking a lot about the ideal state. So yeah, beautiful, thank you. We do have some questions here. We have one from Mike at KAD. Do you see this model or approach working in a school setting? Would it look different? Have you considered schools already, and what would be some of the challenges?
I guess the beauty of this approach is, yeah, it can go across any setting. Again, what I find is when talking to stakeholders or people, and you know, I guess it's human nature, is that, well, why should we do it if your backyard isn't clean? You know, so for me it was about, let's see how we can get it in play in our own backyard before we go shifting it out elsewhere. So yeah, you know, business associations, schools, easily this approach could go across any of those sort of settings.
Yeah, kia ora. And it's not a question, but it's just a comment from Kathy Powell about that she loves the maps, and she looks forward to seeing the PowerPoint so that she can reflect with her team. So just to everyone, we will send the slides out, both Winnie and Julio's slides, so that you'll be able to view them after as well. And one more question here from Danny McLean. It looks like from Auckland Regional Public Health. Can you share more on how the shifting of power dynamics worked for you through this work?
It really came down to, I guess for me, is that that time spent getting to know what the current state is for people, so that one, I got a really clear understanding of what the challenges are for staff, what the barriers are, why perhaps sometimes they feel they didn't feel empowered to be able to make any decisions, and that was part of sharing the risk. So if it came down to where I had to do the advocacy side of things with leadership, I was able to support that kōrero for them, so that then they were able to feel a bit more, that they had a bit more decision making they could make, that they felt a bit more empowered around making some decisions for themselves, that they felt that they could actually test something and that it would be okay to fail if it did, or be able to adapt quickly. Yeah, so it took time. Takes time and real understanding, and at the same time, we as the practitioners have that opportunity to share our knowledge and information in a way that we are able to shift them, not just from that understanding, and like I was talking about, getting them to get into some action, but sometimes you have to deal with some of the underlying issues before people can move. Hope that makes sense and that helps.
Yeah, kia ora, Winnie. Really sitting alongside, you know, community and people, isn't it? A lot of this work.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And understanding the real challenges. You know, whether you're inside an organisation like this or in community, people can feel powerless.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've got to find a way around that.
Yeah. Kia ora, Winnie. Barry Power, would you like to ask a question at all? Yes, kia ora. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Kia ora, everyone. Winnie, awesome. Thank you for that talk and the work that you've done. Really awesome to see those shifts out in my old communities. Really, really nice. And I think to see it happening at a policy level, I think so that the change is almost like regulated some way, so that way it has to be adhered to. And to hear you say you want to get your own backyard shipshape before sort of preaching to everyone else, I thought that was really, really choice. So yeah, really nice to hear. I noticed one of the things is, quite often to eat healthy, there's this sort of mantra around it being too expensive. And I did see that your cost per child in Oscar and Kai Kids went up from 15 cents per day per child to 75 cents per day per child. And I was just wondering if, in terms of, I guess, the longitudinal outcomes from these shifts, even on a micro level in these cool cafes at the mini level pools or at the facilities, is there any kind of ongoing surveying with the customers of those food establishments to see how their sort of take on food or their choices at the counter or at the till change over time? Is there anything of that in the works or thinking about that?
Yeah, I guess that once we had the testing out of the way and everything, all the system side of things were implemented, we did do some evaluation, starting in particular with our Kai vendors, because that was the number one concern, is bottom dollar. So we very much had to make sure that if it ever affected their financial status, we would stop and we would need to rethink and relook at things. I was fortunate enough to just have some really great vendors where they were prepared to mix things up. And so they started testing more different types of kai with their customer and then getting their feedback around what stays on that menu, what the pricing was like in terms of affordability, and even slight, was it the portion size? Even that made some real adjustments for them as well, in terms of they could have more product and sell more product and weren't actually losing out on any money. And in fact, we're putting themselves ahead of the game, I suppose. And then like places like leisure, it was again getting some real insight as to funding streams and what did that look like for them, because South is different to North. So they all had the MSD funding and the parents' fees, but like South Auckland would have equity funding. So it was getting deep into what's available to them. And then we also, who was it? I think it was an AUT student. We brought an AUT student in as well, just to support the food vendors, to get a gauge of customers' feedback around. Did they notice any difference in the type of kai that was being served? Did they prefer what was being offered? How did they feel about the pricing? And again, it was a nice balance of not only staff and the environments of the leisure sites or whatever, but also the people that were coming through. But evaluation is definitely an ongoing thing for me. So even though Oscar's been going for a good year now, Cody Kid's been going for a little while now. I'm just building up the work with community facilities and places. To me, it's once everything's in place, that's fine and dandy. But it's what's really happening operationally and on the ground. That because you can still tweak things, we can still tweak things along the way, and
Yeah, no, thank you so much. That's really cool to hear, because some of the challenges we have as well is just you know it, and we know the impact it has, but how do you then quantify it to really loudspeaker it? So I guess it is that constant evaluation and just sharing what you're finding as you go along on the journey. So thanks very much, Winnie.
Yeah, very much so. And that evaluation is constantly feeding back to their leadership teams. Yeah,
Awesome.
That's a big part of it too.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
kia ora,
you.
Winnie, kia ora, Barry. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm now going to hand us all over to your friend and colleague, Julio Bin. Julio, if you just want to unmute yourself and bring up your slides. Kia ora.
Thank you, Caitlin and Grace, for hosting us and organizing us as well. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui, kia koutou katoa. I have the great pleasure to work alongside Winnie in the TSI Healthy Families team. Let me just share my slides and start here. Yep, is that working? Hang on a second. Okay, it's great to be here today with you guys and share a little bit of the story and the journey of the Food Hub and how this journey has been important to create some positive changes in our communities. The Papatoetoe Food Hub has been officially opened since June last year, but I have been working in this project for almost 3 years now, and we have a lot of information and insights, being operational or inspirational data, showing how this initiative is supporting systems change. So today I will try to give you an idea of the thinking, the strategy, and the results so far. That's not good. Okay. So the Food Hub, it's a very good example of systems change in action. I can spend hours talking about it, but with the time we have today, I decided to divide the story in 3 parts so you can understand the thinking. The Food Hub is a concept, the Food Hub is a place, the Food Hub is a collective. But before getting into the concept though, I would like to spend a bit of time and explain the rationale behind it. So food insecurity and food dependency are both side effects of the dysfunctionality of the global food system, which is a broken system based on a linear economic model that depends on mass production, mass consumption, and it generates a lot of waste. So our regional and local food systems are a reflection of the system, which we all know that has been disrupted by COVID-19, highlighting even more food insecurity and how vulnerable we are when it comes to food resilience. Food insecurity is not only the lack of good food, but also too much of bad food, which is creating systemic health problems in our communities, as well as social, cultural, environmental, and economic issues. Our food system, the way it is literally killing the planet and also the people. Understanding the causes and of the problem at systems level help us to identify and understand the conditions that are keeping these problems in place. Our work is to try shifting the conditions towards an ideal scenario. In the traditional way, the tendency to deal with problems is to deal as it happens, which might become part of the problem itself, especially when creates dependency rather than resilience. So our job is to understand the causes and the problems within the system, which might be harder and take a lot longer, but it gives a greater sense of purpose to the work and also have a better outcome for the community. In our theory of change, food is at the center, as a catalyst for systemic change, and able to regenerate communities, able to regenerate environment and also the economy. I love the simplicity of this quote in the middle to illustrate the power of food. The quote is from the book called Recovering the Sacred by Winnie, and I think it's perfect for the real impact that food can have in our communities. So the challenges statement for the Food Hub, it's around the fact that today people have good access to bad food and bad access to good food. And what I mean by good food, it's food that it's affordable, it's nourishing, it's sustainable, locally produced and culturally appropriate. Besides all the evidence, the statistics and the studies, we also heard from our communities in many different ways that the lack of resources like time, space and money, lack of incentives, lack of availability, and especially the lack of options, makes the decision-making process when buying food favorable to the easiest choice, not the best choice. This was some of the key insights from our communities and only reinforced our thinking and the need for action when we were structuring the Food Hub. So the Food Hub is a concept. It's all about food and people. A hub for social and cultural interactions, a meeting space providing good and affordable food, a place for people to learn, to have fun, to share and celebrate local and traditional food. We decided to aim very high with the possible outcomes in this concept, as it was a prototype of an ideal scenario in which the Food Hub would be able to spark multiple changes in the local food system and eventually increase supply and demand of good and affordable food in the region and support our journey towards food security and food sovereignty. This is the diagram of the concept. The simplicity of this diagram maybe hides its complexity and also its uniqueness. The concept relies on a sustainable business model to operate. And the business model relies on upcycling food and on low overhead costs. So essentially, the model requires a good chef, it requires a good businessman, and requires a community curator. The diagram was actually the start of the Food Hub journey. This was how we presented the concept to potential partners and stakeholders. Engaging with people with the concept was a very important part in this journey. We wrote a simple but a strong purpose right in the beginning, and also a set of guiding principles so that everyone could understand and be part of this movement. We left these purpose and guiding principles hanging on the wall of the Food Hub as a draft for more than a year, asking people for their feedback. And today, this is the base of the Food Hub kaupapa. The Food Hub as a place, it's simple. The concept needed a physical space to be tested. So Panuku Development, which is the urban regeneration agency in Auckland Council, heard about the concept and offered us a vacant property in Papatoetoe for a limited time so we could test the concept. It is a hidden, the place is pretty much hidden in the back of the main street, but close to the train station and the supermarket. So Papatoetoe Food Hub is around here. The St. George Street is here. The train station around here. We have the rec center here, Alan Brewster Rec Center. The actual library is around here. So there is, it's pretty close to everything, although it's in the back street of everything else. So this area is actually earmarked for future development. So we were giving initially 2 years to make it happen. and just recently has been extended for another 2 years. This was the first time that I visited the site. So we had 2 netball courts, a club room, showers, dressing rooms, an awesome space, but no commercial kitchen, no infrastructure for food business, no foot traffic, and most important, no life. The building was in good shape, but closed up for a few years. So it wasn't an ideal site, but it was a perfect place to test the regenerative power of the concept. So we accepted, and Panook became our first partner in this journey. We then invested a lot of time getting to know the neighborhood, getting to know the people, the energy of the place, its history, and not only the stats, but also the character of the place. And for about 7 or 8 months, while getting the paperwork, waiting for resource consent, renovations, and etc., we focused on re-energizing the site and engaging with the local community. With the concept and the place aligned, we put together a business plan, and it started to invite others to join and to support the kaupapa. The initial feedback we had was very inspiring. Everyone was kind of understanding the need for that. And via financial, pro bono, or in-kind support, the food hub was coming to life. And then suddenly we realized that this was becoming also a real PPCP, which is a public-private community partnership, where the community would be the most essential partner in the project. So finally, the Food Hub is a community collective. Cooperation is one of the key guiding principles of the Food Hub. And from the beginning, all community partners brought into the Food Hub knew that common goals and common unity would be essential to the kaupapa. The Food Hub Collective is not a charity. It's a business that depends on its revenue to supply good and affordable food, and also to create social good. Today, the Food Hub employs 11 people and is creating other work opportunities within the community. An upcycle menu was implemented in September last year, 2019, after a partnership with the Papatoetoe New World supermarket. This partnership was pretty key for us to start the upcycling menu. Since then, the Food Hub has been rescuing an average of 500 kilos of surplus food per week. To clarify, surplus food, it's food that's perfectly good to eat, but it's either close to expiring date or it's considered as ugly food, either bruised or not good enough for shelf. So until June 2020, approximately 15 tons of surplus food that otherwise would be gone to landfill had been rescued and used to as ingredients to create the new meals and new juices and smoothies. With this quantity, it was possible to create about 6,000 meals. And when I say 6,000, is individual and family packs, and about 1,000 juices and smoothies. We sold, this was all sold in this period between September 19 and June 2020, feeding approximately 8,000 people. Whenua to Whenua is the latest initiative of the collective, which is a project to close the cycle via composting the organic waste on site. An average of 100 kilos per week for the last 2 months. We just finished doing an audit in all our recycling and waste. And now the Whenua to Whenua is just being implemented. and it's due to start working with the local community as well to help upcycling or recycling the food waste that we have on site. This will eventually become a new social enterprise, which will be part of the collective, producing organic fertilizer and compost for urban and backyard farming. The collective already have connection with the main schools in Papatoetoe and wants to create experiential learning activities for kids and adults, like garden to table initiatives and cooking classes. So there's an educational, the next phase of the Food Hub will be related to more educational and experiential learning. So as I said before, more than good numbers and results, it is the inspirational and the transformational data that makes the Food Hub a special concept, special place, and a special collective. The model is proving to be viable, and it has been able to instigate people to rethink and imagine what a local resilient food system could look like. COVID-19 also highlighted the urgent need for change. And even though we are still understanding the post-COVID behaviors, how relationship with food has changed, and what is the full potential of this concept in the new norm, we know that the Food Hub can be a replicable model to improve local food resilience. The real measure of success in this project is when the concept is owned by the community, the place is regenerative, and the collective is a sustainable business. The Food Hub is a drop of hope in our dysfunctional food system and is definitely helping to create conditions for systems change. The best way to see this in action is actually to visiting the Food Hub and come to meet the team, have a kai, and understand what's happening there. So here's an invitation and maybe an inspiration for you all to come. This is the Food Hub menu and was created and designed by the collective, including the cool tagline, guilt-free, guilt on the pocket, on the puku, and on the planet. So I think we're close to 12 o'clock, and then this is a perfect time for marketing, so you can place all your orders. And please, if you need any more information, I'm happy to answer your questions or just send me an email. Thank you.
Kia ora, Julio, and it's so cool to see all those pictures of the beautiful people and that yummy looking kai that is at the Papatoetoe Food Hub. Really relevant, isn't it, to the challenges that our community are facing today, especially around food security, but also around food waste. And it's really, out of one hub, has touched on many different parts of the food system. So beautiful kōrero, thank you. We do have one question here from Megan Beard. Would the Food Hub consider becoming a supplier to the free Healthy School Lunch program pilot for next year?
Yes, it's already, there's some conversation about that. We have been, we need to improve the capacity of the Food Hub. One of the things that we're looking for, you know, they're trying to get now is a walk-in freezer. So there's, it's just, we are in a turning point that we have the team, we have the menu, we have the skills, we just need more equipment, but definitely it's something that's been already, the vast majority of the schools around Papatoetoe is already getting contact with the Food Hub. Some of them want to replace a tuck shop by the Food Hub. That's not going to happen, but we can actually work together and make sure that the kind of a food that's been available at the Food Hub, it's also available at schools. Yes, so totally, it's possible, and we hope to get to that point.
Yeah, awesome. That would be amazing. We have another question here. Let me just have a bit of a read of it. Oh, it's a comment actually from Rebecca Hallowell. I'm sorry I missed your presentation, Winnie. Kauri kids would love to be more involved somehow, as nutrition is so important for our tamariki, and we find it hard to support whānau with lunchbox ideas to fuel their little brains and bodies. Kia ora, Rebecca. We do have some time for questions. So if anyone has a question for Winnie or Julio, feel free to please unmute yourself and ask. I'll leave a few seconds to allow people to do that. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I'm Manisha. I did a little bit of work in mental health and have a background in public health. And have over the last while been looking for opportunities and love the Papatoetoe Food Hub. I'm based in Monaco, and I'm deeply upset that we have a country full of public health grads that don't get to step into work like this, because this is exactly what I wanted to do when I was at high school. So my question is, do you have a job for me? But more pertinently, how do we go about creating this around the country, and where do I start?
Wow. Well, first thing to start, it's come to the Food Hub, meet the people, and you know, experience what's happening there. I would love to host you there and then introduce you to everyone, and you're just next door neighbor. So just come over, and yes, the idea of creating a model that could be replicable was exactly that. Was just so we've been testing and trying, and now we are in the point that we know it works. So it's just how can we replicate this to other places, and how we're going to do that. I think it's just by having people with your you know, enthusiasm and energy and understanding what's the benefit of having food hubs all around. That's what's going to make the change. So yeah, happy to have you there, and you can come and get one of this.
That is very tempting. I'll send you an email.
Awesome.
Kia ora, Manisha and Julio. We still have time for questions if anyone else would like to unmute themselves. Kia ora.
Hey everyone. Julio, awesome work, brother. I know it looks like on this presentation it was all easy peasy and just could easily get put into a little half-hour slot, but I know it's a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs, and I just want to say congratulations on it all. It's looking like it's got to a really amazing place, and we're definitely, as we've talked about before, open to working with Garden to Table to bring that educational component into the sort of ecosystem, which would be awesome. And I just wanted to check on that. I know that there's been a lot of legacy, so I guess dynamics you've had to work through with the gardens next to you. Do you know if the next 2 years of your kind of lease arrangement with Panuku sees you being able to access those gardens a little bit more, or is there some room or scope for that kind of activity going forward?
I don't know exactly what's the situation with the gardens. It's a different organization altogether. What we are doing is working together with them and creating planter boxes as well at the food hubs, so we can have it's easier for people to access. We want to have kids coming over. We want to have experiential classes there. So we do have a lot of planter boxes there already, and with the compost that's going to come from the composting scheme, we would start with our planter boxes and then expanding. We really want to show how it's possible to do on a micro level, especially like you could urban farming and backyard farming. It's key for the supply and demand at the local level. So what we want to really is to showcase that with a planter box, you can do at home, you can do at school, you can do at marae, at churches, and everywhere. So yeah, it's important to have a relationship with the gardens, but also we want to show that it's possible to do in a different way. So yeah, awesome. It's going to be awesome to have you in this corridor as well, Barry.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I just think it's fantastic. If anyone hasn't been out there, get out there. It's really, really something.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kia ora, Barry. Okay. Well, if there's no one else who would like to ask a question, we can close. So thank you so much, Winnie and Julio, for sharing your mahi. It's awesome to see this work happening down in South Auckland. Ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, moto tautoko. Thank you to everyone who has participated here today. I'll just close us with a karakia. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atawhā tō tātou ariki, a iukarai te miti aroa, me te whiwhinga tihitanga, ki te wārua tapu, ake, āmene. Kia ora everyone, stay safe. Ngā
Fabulous.
manaakitanga.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ka kite.